There have been great writers in history who held on to their day jobs as they wrote on site. Some were able to switch full time, while some were not. Mohsin Hamid's journey as a writer is such an intermingled story. We'll see how it all started for him, then have a look at his books, and then in last, what his stories and characters actually communicate. Let's experience his story. Hamid, born in Pakistan, stayed in US from age 3 to 9 while his father was doing PhD at Stanford University. He then moved back to Lahore where he attended his school. Growing up, he was influenced by books such as E.B. White's Charlotte's Web, The Wind in the Willows, and The Lord of the Rings. At the age of 18, Hamid returned to US to continue his education and he graduated from Princeton in 1993. At Princeton, he took a writing course under writers Joyce Carol Oates and Toni Morrison, which would mark the starting point for his journey as a writer. At this point, Hamid felt that a career as a writer might be a possibility for him. He wrote the first draft of a novel for fiction group taught by Morrison and returned to Pakistan afterward to continue working on it. Hamid then attended Harvard Law School, graduating in 1997, but he found corporate law relatively boring. But he had student loans. So he repaid his loans by working for several years as a management consultant at McKinsey and Company in New York. He would take 3 months off every year to write, and using this time very well, he completed his first novel, Moth Smoke. He said about writing, quote, "When I'm writing well, I feel happy. And when I go too long without writing, I begin to implode." End quote. Hamid moved to London in summer of 2001, initially intending to stay only 1 year, but later he became a British citizen. In 2004, he joined the brand consultancy Wolf Ollins, working only 3 days a week so as to retain time to write. Hamid has published 5 books up to this date, one being a collection of his essays, another being novels. Published in 2000, Mood Smoke is the story of Dara Sheko Shahzad, a banker in Lahore, Pakistan, who loses his job, falls in love with his best friend's wife, and plunges into a life of drugs and crime. It uses the historical trial of Mughal Prince Dara Shikoh by his brother Aurangzeb as an allegory for the state of Pakistan at the time of 1998 nuclear tests. Written in third-person narration, novel begins with the story of Emperor Shah Jahan with Sufi saint predicting war of succession, prophesying one son being ruler and the death of the others. While Dara-Shikoh Shahzad and Aurangzeb are the friends, they are separated by capital and class in contemporary Pakistan. Mumtaz, lover of one and wife of other, is the novel's catalyst. Mood Smoke is set in Lahore and revolves around these three main characters. The novel captures the heart and the soul of the second generation of an independent Pakistan. It's a story about power, greed, lust, and infidelity. There is timeless tragedy, a drama of crime, punishment, and redemption.
Well, the main character in Moth Smoke is a guy called Darashiko Shahzad, and Daru, as he's known, is a bit down and out. He's a young banker who loses his job, and he's not very well connected, so has a hard time finding another one, and eventually is driven to a point of crime. And I think his story is a story faced by a lot of the young middle-class people in Pakistan who aren't well connected and aren't wealthy. And I think, the resentment of these people at inequalities, economic inequalities, is a lot of what feeds into the kinds of things that we in the West see as, fundamentalism.
Published in 2007, novel uses the technique of a frame story, which takes place during the course of a single evening in an outdoor Lahore cafe, where a bearded man called Changiz tells a nervous American stranger about his love affair with an American woman and his eventual amendment of US after 9/11. The novel used the unusual device of a dramatic monologue in which the Pakistani protagonist continuously addresses American listener who is never heard from directly. Hamid has said that The Fall by Albert Camus served as his model for novel's narrative choice. Through Reluctant Fundamentalist, Hamid wanted reader to understand the title ironically. Reader is provoked to the question whether all critiques of a US in a Muslim country should be labeled as fundamentalist, but the term more accurately depicts the capitalists of American bourgeoisie. Throughout the plot, reader comes across many instances where Hamid tries to establish how Americans perceive Muslim world regardless of their contributions and emotions toward US.
And I began to think about this notion that it's possible to separate in one's mind the horrific, atrocious, massacre of thousands of our fellow human beings from a kind of symbolic act, political act, and that people do this all the time. And so in the novel, Chingiz has this reaction, and he feels torn because on the one hand he's quite in love with America and doing quite well in America. On the other hand, he feels this strange kind of almost tribal affiliation that says he's happy that America is hurt. And one thing I'd just like to say about this is that we were talking a bit earlier about who gets attracted. There's the heroic quest of the person who gets attracted. There's potentially the psychopath. But I think there's also a group of people, in a way like Chingiz in the novel, who feel divided, who feel that they're of two worlds.
Published in 2013, the story for this novel takes place in an unnamed country that resembles settings those of Pakistan. It details the protagonist beginning as a poor boy and quest for wealth and love as he moves to the city and enters the bottled water business. The novel uses a second person's perspective, referring to the protagonist only as you. How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia is actually a novel written in self-help book style, written by unnamed narrator. The narrator has some experience with getting rich, and he defines the kind of rich as being, quote, filthy, end quote. Hamid argues through How to Get Filthy Rich in Rising Asia that you only have one life and you must not waste it.
Well, it's the story of a boy who becomes a man and eventually an old man. It's the story of a man's life from pretty much early childhood till death. And along the way, he passes through different stages, not just of life, but in sort of socio-economic success, from really absolute crushing rural poverty to quite poor urban life to more of a middle-class existence to being quite wealthy and then partway back down again. And so the novel tries to look at society. You can imagine, a country like Pakistan, but it could be set anywhere really. But look at the society of that place in the form of one man's life. So if you took all 12 chapters, they add up to a man. But if you sort of lay them side by side, they could be 12 different people, operating at very different levels of society, a snapshot of the country today.
Published in 2017, the novel is about a young couple, Saeed and Nadia, who live in an unnamed city undergoing civil war and finally have to flee, using a system of fictitious doors just like Lucy uses in C.S. Lewis' Chronicles of Narnia, which lead to different locations around the globe. Exit West was also among favorite books of 2017 of Barack Obama. The novel came at very important time when the world was and is still facing a huge refugee crisis. Hamid's story creates an empathy channel and humanizes migrants' stories. Though Mohsin's next project is yet unknown, but we know it would be a new experiment with the style, or maybe perhaps some characters aging for individuality from tribalism. Whether there are people who are unemployed and can't seem to find channels to express their emotions but sex and drugs, or people labeled fundamentalists, or people feeling alienated from their surrounding by socio-economic boundaries, or migrants who move across globe, or youth trying to cultivate individuality breaking away from tribalism, Mohsin Hamid's stories tell us one thing: there are only humans floating on a spaceship called Earth in a galaxy called Milky Way. Right now, we humans seem to create more and more imaginary boundaries between us and them, whether on basis of religion, socio-economics, culture, race, nationalism, history. Though there are some trying to create bridges, and we need more of these people. There is a dire need of our times to remember that there are only humans.
I think that what happens is that our identity actually is incredibly complex, um, and, uh, uh, and and we have a language for it and a cultural frame for it, which is completely simplified. So we imagine that this person is a rectangle, British perhaps, and that person is a circle, Pakistani. But they're not. The British person, if you examine the edges of their supposedly rectangular shape, you find all kinds of serrations. That this one likes sushi, and this one likes, children's books of a particular type, and this one likes to dance in this way or this kind of music. And so when we encounter each other, we wind up interfacing on lots of elements of that jagged edge of identity.
Thank you so much, guys, for watching. Have a good one.